countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, and welcome back to more of the Last Comic Shop Podcast!
That is right. We are opening up the shop to newbies to help them find their way underneath this comic book tent.
And we're keeping the lights on for the oldies and the moldies that might be stumbling around looking for new things to read, stuff that has critical acclaim, stuff that they may have missed when it came out initially, or stuff that just is really super duper cool.
Especially stuff that is up for Eisner Awards. That's right, it is that Eisner Awards season, and it is right around the corner with San Diego Comic-Con coming up later this week. I'm the host with the most, Andy Larson. I'm joined by Chad Smith and Jay Scott, as well as the wonderful Mikey Wood, and we're going to be talking all about Eisners this week, including Mikey Wood's pick from that Eisner list for our book review later in the episode. So, Mikey, which book off of this illustrious nominee list did you pick for us to read this week?
Well, it was a tough choice. Actually, no, it was a tough choice because there was a lot of really good books that I actually read this time around. Usually, the Eisner Awards come around, and I'm just like, oh, I didn't read that. Oh, I didn't read that. This time around, I read a bunch of them. So, but I actually chose what I think is kind of one of my favorite books of the past year anyway, which is Helen of Wyndhorn, which was a 6-issue miniseries. So I'm making you guys read it.
We wanted to read this book anyway, so it was killing two birds with one stone. But that will be later in this episode as we start. I think it's our 10th Tom King book on this particular show. Like it just more than any other writer out there, we love Tom King, and so we love reviewing his books. But there's other writers, artists, folks out there that we love and we've read over the past year, and now they're up for the Eisner Awards this upcoming weekend, and we thought that we would educate everybody with this opening segment as to who's up for some of these major awards that are given out at the Eisners every year. So we're going to kind of go through some of what we would consider like the best actor, actress, best picture kind of categories, and then kind of finish off with some of the lesser known categories in case there's any books out there we think people might want to check out. So without further ado, it's time for J.A. Scott to take over hosting duties. Which category are we looking at first?
We're going to kick off with Best Continuing Series. 6 nominees in this category. The Department of Truth, Detective Comics, Fantastic Four, Santos Sisters, Ultimate Spider-Man, and Wonder Woman.
That's an awesome list.
Multiple nominee people coming back. Obviously, Wonder Woman by Tom King and Daniel Spree. Ultimate Spider-Man, Hickman. Everyone has their opinion on Hickman. So you like him, you don't like him. You think he drops the ball at the end. He's a bit too much mystery boxy, getting the J.J. Abrams thing going. Santos Sisters, a special place in our hearts here at the Last Comic Shop as they let us advertise on their fine book.
And a lot of the commercial breaks, you'll listen to this. Santos Sisters has an awesome trade out through Fantagraphics right now. You get the first 5 issues. You want some more details, just listen to one of our commercial breaks coming up later.
Yeah. And then we got Ryan North's Fantastic Four, Detective Comics by Ram V and Tom Taylor et al. And then Department of Truth, of course, James Tynion IV. Not to be left out, because it wouldn't be an Eisner Award without a lot of James Tynion.
Yeah, out of the I have the first, I think, 4 Department of Truth trades, and I really do enjoy that book. But I think out of them, that Ram V run of Detective Comics was like I hate to sound cliche, but it was epic. It was like Ram V and with Tom King is kind of like one of my favorite writers of the most recent 10 years or so, 5 years or so. But that book was wow. So good.
All right, Chad, from this list of best continuing series, what's your pick? Which one do you want to come home, or which one do you think is going to?
I would root for the Fantastic Four just because I'm a big Ryan North fan. I love the way that he makes his comics. This is the year he got to do One Nation Under Doom for the company-wide crossover event. But that Fantastic Four book has just been chugging along as like the best of comics. You know, you get these stories that are rooted in science, but also the family elements are there, and he gets these characters, but he has fun and these quick. Like, you can just pick up an issue and read it and enjoy an issue, not have to worry about 600 years of backstory. But, you know, if you have that, it's even better. Fantastic Four, if I had to pick one, would be my pick. But I feel like you might be going in a different direction, Andy. Who would you pick?
Oh, well, I think that Ultimate Spider-Man, if it doesn't get the nod for putting basically Peter Parker back in that marriage with Mary Jane, giving him kids, but more to the point, just generating interest and excitement in a Spider-Man title for the first time, I think, in years. When Ultimate Spider-Man #1 hit, I don't know how many printings they had of that, but it was tremendous. I still think it's the best Ultimate book out there, and the Ultimate books have been really good. They're kind of the equivalent of the DC Absolute series, although I feel like the DC Absolute series is hitting it out of the park even more because they're taking even bigger swings than even the Ultimate series is. But I still think it's the best Spider-Man book out there, and so that's my nod. J.A., before we move on, you didn't get a vote, so what's yours?
I got a sort of soft spot for Wonder Woman. It is a book that we reviewed. It is a book that I picked. I did like that series, and I thought the art was incredible by Daniel Sampere. So I'm going to go Wonder Woman.
So we're agreed that none of us agree. There's a lot of good books out there.
Yeah.
There is. I can say that if you're not reading, you're missing out on some of the best of comics that is now in on your stands. What's the next category, J.A.?
We can call this the James Tynion, Tom King, Ram V. Everyone we've heard about previously. There are a lot in this category as well. Best limited series. So if they don't win one for best ongoing series, they have another try at the apple for best limited series. Because there's just a lot of crossovers. It either means that they are just doing incredibly good work, or that the voters are incredibly narrow-minded. One or the other. I don't know. But Alan Scott, The Green Lantern by Tim Sheridan and Cian Tormey from DC. Animal Pound by Tom King and Peter Gross out of Boom Studios. The Deviant by James Tynion IV and Joshua Hickson from Image. Helen of Wyndhorn, which we will be reviewing later on this show, by Tom King and Bilquis Evely from Dark Horse. Spelled with a U. Rare Flavors by Ram V and Philippe Andrade out of Boom Studios. Then Zatanna, Bring Down the House by Mariko Tamaki and Javier Rodriguez from DC.
Unlike the continuing series, I haven't read a lot of these. I should. There are a lot of them are in my read pile, like Animal Pound's been sitting there for a while. Rare Flavors has been sitting there for a while. But honestly, Helen of Wyndhorn was the first one from this list I read, and that was because of the show this week. Now, I will say Mikey seems to have read a lot of these, though. I think he's commented on the Alan Scott Green Lantern book before.
Yeah, that was a really good book. The art on that is really, really lovely. It's got a lot of really kind of sweet moments. Rare Flavors is great. That's the same team that did The Many Deaths of Layla
The Star.
Yeah, so it's that same team. So it's the quality there, and it's a really interesting concept. Very, very well done. Animal Pound's cool. It's kind of like a modern version of Animal Farm. It deals with politics and things through using animals, but I think really the strongest one for me is Helen. So I've said it before in different shows. Like, there's very few things that I've read of his that I didn't like. I don't think there's any that I didn't like. There's some that I don't like as much. And he's divisive, Some people really, really aren't into his stuff, and I don't know why, but they aren't.
Chad, out of this list, where's your nod going?
So I'm in a similar boat where at least half of these I have not checked out, and like Rare Flavors, I picked up the first 5 of the 6 issues, and then for reasons that I don't fully understand, I missed issue 6. I've been hunting for that before I read that one. So Helen of Wyndhorn would get my pick, though, and we'll talk about it. It's such a beautiful looking book, and I was so excited after I read the first issue of that one. I love the main character. So yeah, Tom King wins another one for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to echo Chad. That first issue really drew me in. And, that's it, especially with the limited series. If you're not hooked after you read the first issue, it's pretty much donezo time, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you can come back 10 issues in and, oh, wow, I really like this second storyline. Let me go back and read the first and catch up to this point. So
Right.
I think for a limited series, you really got to come out of the gate swinging.
Yeah.
And Helen of Wyndhorn
Swung. Any case, I think it's unanimous. I think this is going to win just for the art alone, and we'll get to that in just a second. So let's save that for after the commercial break. Next category, J.A.
But this would be Best New Series. This continues Marvel's slump at this year's Eisners, by the way, because they've only been nominated for 2 awards so far in Best Continuing Series. Nothing under Best Limited, nothing under the Best New Series, which one could say is sort of, that's where you're coming out with new stuff that people are interested and excited about. A lot of absolutes. We got Absolute Batman by Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta, Absolute Wonder Woman by Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman, Minor Arcana by Jeff Lemire, The Pedestrian by Joey Esposito and Sean Van Gorman, The Power Fantasy by Kieran Gillen and Casper Wingard, and Uncanny Valley by Tony Fleeks and Dave Wachter.
Another really stacked category, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of books I have read, lots of good books on here that I've enjoyed. This is a really tough one for me. There's one that stands out that I didn't enjoy as much. I tried to get into the Power Fantasy, never could. Read the first couple issues of that. But man, you know what? Just for the media campaign that they had, I really hope that The Pedestrian gets the nod here, even over Meatball Batman. I loved everything that Joey Esposito and Sean Ben Gorman were putting out, especially when The Pedestrian first hit. I think they had action figures and it was bananas and it was just fun to watch. Chad, what do you say?
So I have not finished it, which is ironic because it's a 10-issue series in the Best New Series category as opposed to limited. But as much as I love Meatball Batman, as much as I love Absolute Wonder Woman, Uncanny Valley is doing something for me, where it's the merging of the cartoon realm with a more realistic take, and then it's all the great gags that you're used to from watching the Chuck Jones era Looney Tunes cartoons, married with some family drama and some pathos. And I just think what Tony Fleeks and Dave Wachter are doing on that series is great. I'm very sad it's only 10 issues because I've read through the first half, but I've really, really enjoyed them. I'm hoping it finishes strong. But yeah, as of right now, that one gets my pick.
J.A., what's your pick in this category?
Meatball Batman, maybe, I guess? That's an easier guess.
And if you're interested, we are going to be reviewing Absolute Batman. And I think about 2 weeks, Ethan's going to be coming back and we're going to be finally reviewing Meatball Batman ahead of the trade. All right. Well, Mikey, you finish us out. What are you picking from this list?
Oh, it's Absolute Wonder Woman, for sure. I love it. I love Meatball Batman too. I haven't read Pedestrian. It looks like it's a blast, but I haven't read it. But yeah, Absolute Wonder Woman is just awesome. I mean, it's got kaiju and mythology and just, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to read. All those Absolute, I've said that before too. All those Absolute books are just, they come in and I read them immediately. I'm just so excited by them.
Martian Manhunter, that one's been tons of fun. Mm-hmm. Superman I dropped off on, but I've heard good things since then.
All right, so we've got 3 more categories to wrap up here.
Yeah, we're going to go to some of the individual awards, but before we get there, I do want to mention that, like in years past, we have reviewed some books that later on went to be nominated. 2 of them that we reviewed earlier that you can find in our Evergreen collection is My Favorite Thing is Monsters, Book 2, by Emil Ferris, and Victory Parade by Leila Corman. That was a bit of a left field pick that has landed on the Best Graphic Album New nomination list. So last Comic Shop podcast streak continues in reviewing books that go on to win Eisners. Maybe people will start wanting us to review their books.
Here's hoping.
But moving on to the individual awards, Best Writer, and it really is a who's who. Tom King for Archie, Helen of Wyndhorn, The Penguin, Wonder Woman, Jenny Sparks, Animal Pound. Ram V for Rare Flavors, Dawn Runner, The Hand, Universal Monsters, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Lives. Kelly Thompson for Absolute Wonder Woman, Birds of Prey, Scarlet, Venom War, It's Jeff, #1. And James Tinian IV for Something is Killing the Children, Wind, Blue Book, The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, Spectrograph, The Department of Truth, The Deviant, and Jean Luen Yang for Lunar New Year Love Story.
Well, we're going to start off with you, J.A.
I'm hoping for Kelly Thompson. I really liked her take on Birds of Prey. And Venom War, It's Jeff, #1. It's just so fun.
All right. Chad?
I'm going to go with Tom King, just because that is the flavor I seem to appreciate the most out of this list. But I do love me some Jean Luen Yang, but I have not yet read Lunar New Year, so that's something to check out. Kelly Thompson, I second Mikey in saying that Absolute Wonder Woman is just a blast. But Tom King is the guy that consistently delivers in my mind. Where like, I know I'm going to get a quality book. I know I'm going to get a big swing. You know, I'm not the same as Mikey. There's been a Tom King book or two where I'm like, I don't know if that fits for me, but when it does work, man, it works. And so he gets my nod this year.
Yeah, I'm going to go along with that, too. I think Tom King, there's a reason why we have 10 books by him on the Last Comic Shop. I still think he's the best comic book writer out there. And so I'll just give him another award. But Mikey, I saved you for last because you got two. It's almost like splitting children here. I mean, you got two on here that you really, really love, plus Kelly Thompson. But like, let's talk about it. Tom King versus Ram V. Who you taking this year, at least?
Well, you know, I mean, I would really like to see Kelly win just because she was awesome and we interviewed her and she was gracious but like, if I have to choose, it's real hard. Like,
just this year. This year,
I'll probably go with Ram V this time around, just because that detective run was long and epic. But I love Tom's Wonder Woman too. Oh, it's so hard. I want Tom V or Ram King to win. It's hard to say, man. It is hard to say. Like, it's a good stack. And unfortunately, I haven't read a lot of Tinian stuff, so that's kind of sort of out of the loop with that. But
all right. Last category we'll cover is Best Penciler Inker / Penciler Inker Team. Philippe Andrade for Rare Flavors, Nick Dragotta, Absolute Batman, Bilquis Evely for Helen of Wyndhorn, Manu Larsonet for The Road, Javier Rodriguez for Zantana, Bring Down the House, and Leuin Pham for Lunar New Year Love Story. And I apologize if I pronounce anyone's name incorrectly.
Yeah. We're going to start off with Chad here, because I know he loves that meatball Batman look, but
I do. This is the opposite of the last category. There's only one or two here that I haven't read, but I know I love Javier Rodriguez. I haven't read the Zantana book, but he's always a quality artist. The Road has been my, and I feel shame for admitting this is my bookstore read, where whenever the family goes to the Barnes & Noble, I'll pick it up and read a few more pages of The Road. It's beautiful. It's sparse as far as the language goes, but the imagery it's wonderful. Philippe Andrade has been a favorite of mine since the What If Magic of Doctor Strange, the end that story. So I love Philippe Andrade. Nick Dragotta's Absolute Batman is crazy bonkers, and Bilquis Evely, her Helen of Wyndhorn is beautiful and different, and I don't know, it's between Everly and Dragotta for me. As a shocker, while I think it should go to Bilquis Evely, I'm going to go Nick Dragotta just because it's so bonkers. And it shouldn't work so hard that it works so much more because of it. As beautiful as the Bilquis Evely art is, there's a space for that. There was not a space for Meatball Batman that reasonably should exist.
Mhm.
But it does, and I love it. And there's an excitement there that's happening in comics that comics desperately needed. So Dragoda gets my pick, but it's close all around on this one.
All right. J.A., you're up next.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bilquis Everly because I did not know of her art until we had read Helen of Wyndhorn this week, and I was blown away. I love Philip Andrade. I've seen his art before. Javier Rodriguez, I've seen his art before, and they're great artists as well. But, I'm just going to go with, for me, the new hotness.
There you go.
All right, Mikey, you're up.
Bilquis has it for me. One of the most beautiful comics I've ever seen. I first thing I saw of her was actually she did some issues of Wonder Woman a while ago, and then she did some issues of The Dreaming, and I was just hooked from those. I mean, it's just incredible. And Helen of Wyndhorn is probably some of the best stuff that she did. She did a really fun Sugar and Spike miniseries that was in an anthology book called Legends of Tomorrow, and they collected it in a trade. If you could find it, it's super fun. But yeah, she's got it. She's got it for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree that she's going to win this award. And I think that's a perfect segue into our commercial break. So stick around for more Last Comic Shop. Right after this, we're going to be talking more about Bilquis Everly and this awesome, awesome art, which, again, I think is going to be an Eisner Award-winning work here on Helen of Wyndhorn. So stay tuned for more of that.
And a quick shout out to Clayton Cowles, who's again nominated for Best Lettering. He letters like every single book we read. I'm just saying.
Looking to save money on your collectible supplies? Whether it's comics, cards, sports memorabilia, or miscellaneous pop culture bric-a-brac. Make sure to use promo code LCSPOD to get 10% off your orders at bcwsupplies.com. Not only does it give you a discount on BCW's already low prices, but using LCSPOD at checkout is an amazing way to show support to the Last Comic Shop podcast, the most incredible comic book podcast on the airwaves. So if you are in need of collectible supplies, head out to bcwsupplies.com and use promo code LCSPOD today. That's promo code LCSPOD. Cheers!
From Fantagraphics, the Santos Sisters Volume 1 hardcover collection. Compiling issues 1 to 5 of the hit indie comic book series. Join Amber and Alana, two ordinary girls with extraordinary powers, as they fight crime, date dumb guys, and try to stay sane in a world full of assassins, zombies, crazy ex-girlfriends, and more. A mix of Archie comics meet Love and Rockets, with a healthy dose of kick-ass action. Order your copy today.
All right, we're back with more of the Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for our Read Pile Review. Yes, that time of every single show where we talk about awards for a long time, and then we're like, why did this thing get nominated for an award? It can't be that great. Oh, yes, it can. Oh, yes, it can. So hopefully this just won't be a gushing session. I have in the past compared Bilquis Everly's art to a Percy Shelley sonnet, so you know where I'm going with this. But long story short, it's Helen of Wyndhorn, and J.A., who else worked on this with Bilquis?
Helen of Wyndhorn from Dark Horse was written by Tom King with art by Bilquis Everly, colors by Matias Lopez, with letters by the aforementioned Clayton Cowles. He does everything. And then there are a whole slew of variant cover artists, some which were also nominated for Eisner's, among them Tula Lotte, Elsa Charretier, Massimo Carnival, Clayman, Walt Simonson with Laura Martin, and Greg Smallwood. So some great variant cover artists there if you wanted to pick those up as well. Again, 6-issue limited series.
And Chad is going to give us the 10-cent synopsis for what happens in these 6 issues. And I heard it was going to be a real thin dime.
Sure. So this is the story of Helen of Wyndhorn, who is the daughter of C.K. Cole, which is a very thinly veiled homage to Robert E. Howard. I knew Robert E. Howard as the creator of Conan. I did not realize some of the history, his untimely and early demise. But basically, the story picks up and you're introduced to his daughter, who the father had committed suicide. And Helen is now 16 years old, a drunk, a total mess, no direction in life. And then she is approached by Lilith Appleton, who's to be her new governess, to help her move back into the Wyndhorn estates and get her act together, basically, along with Joseph, the butler, their Alfred. But eventually, Barnabas Cole, the grandfather of Helen, comes home, and it turns out he is a warrior. And so they go on Conan-style adventures between Barnabas and Helen is trying to find herself and find a direction. They encounter all these different monsters and everything super interesting and beautiful and crazy pants. I don't know, Helen was just one of the most fun, interesting new characters I've read in a long time. So
I'm going to add that to a little bit of that 10-cent synopsis. Say that this is really, if you took out all of the fantasy aspects, which is kind of, again, what brings you to the table. I feel like, again, this is a genuine story it's about abandonment. It's about, I'm not going to say the sins of the father heaped upon the son, but, you find out in this particular book that Barnabas Cole, maybe had more lofty ambitions for his son. Maybe that son could not live up to those ambitions, and as a result, passed that on to the daughter. And through the suicide of C.K. Cole, and how, there's got to be a lot of healing. There's got to be a lot of coming together of this family and realizing that it's not just all about running away to Otherworld and having, awesome adventures, that there are really stakes to these interpersonal relationships, which I thought was awesome, to be honest. The one part that I didn't get, and I want to open this up with, because I want to get everybody's thoughts on this. So you have this whole story, and it's being told by the governess as kind of a framing mechanism to somebody that's this biographer of C.K. Cole's life. And there's this whole subplot about these tapes that just get bounced around from one person to the next. They get end up sold at a garage sale because nobody seems to care. And I didn't understand that part. I understood why it was there, but I also didn't understand why it was there. For me, I was there for more of the story that was actually happening, as opposed to this subplot that took up a couple of pages every issue. So I'm throwing it out to the guys.
I thought the old lady was Helen.
yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah.
Wait, she wasn't the governess? I thought she was the governess.
She made the governess up. She made the whole thing up. That's how she dealt with the death of her father, the suicide of her father.
Oh.
So you don't think any of it happened?
Well, that's the whole thing. That what is fantasy? Fantasy is in the mind, right? And it was how she dealt with. But that's why no one could find her in real life, because she took on this persona of this governess.
Yeah.
She wanted to be the daughter.
I did not catch that whatsoever. I was wondering what the heck happened to Helen. Knocked me over with a feather. I did not catch that at all.
Yeah, there's the page where she's sitting there, she's talking to the governess, and Helen has gone through some stuff. And the governess is like, listen, I'm not that much older than you, but remember, we are all the story that our parents tell. And we become the story of our children and our grandchildren, the story that they tell. And you're not different than anybody else. And so that's Helen coming around to, the stories that she's told, and that's who she is.
So she didn't have this governess in her life. She didn't have this mother figure that came in and talked to Barnabas and told him that he was kind of being a jerk and stuff like that.
That's the part I was kind of fuzzy on. I don't know if I'd go full, she was the governess the whole time. I don't know if it was like a Tyler Durden thing, or if there was a governess that eventually...
And then she just took over as, I'm just going to be you.
Yeah, that way people aren't, harassing me, or, she doesn't have to deal with the complicated legacy of her father.
Oh, wow.
And all that comes with it.
Yeah.
But the old lady is definitely Helen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, so actually the tapes are not of this rando governess, which I'm like, well, why does, I mean, I guess it's the closest we could get to the C.K. Cole person, but
who better to tell the story than the daughter of one of the most accomplished authors?
That's
who's
true.
spending all her time undermining her ability to tell the stories, but she's like, maybe there's some gaps. We'll fill them in later.
Yeah. And if you want to just at face value and say this is a fantastical story and this the tapes sort of represent the same thing that like Rorschach's journal represents in Watchmen, that if it's never found, it never gets, nobody ever hears the story unless it's found, because the guy who interviewed her, he establishes that he didn't use half of the shit that she says in the interviews because it sounded so fantastical and ridiculous. So it's an incredible story that nobody would get to hear unless somebody gets those tapes and actually sits down and listens to them.
And I think that was the most poignant thing about the tapes being bounced around. And I think before we move on to other topics, I did want to say that of all the things that were brought up in that subplot story, which again, I'm glad that we're having this conversation because I missed some stuff, but I did like the idea that Tom King plays with here, where more people cared about the actual fictional character that was created, right? The Conan-esque, what is his name? Othon or something like that. I don't even know how you pronounce that. People were more interested in that, whether it was the artwork, like that Frank Frazetta style artwork, whether it was the comic books that they talk about in some of the, even the books, than the actual person that created it. Oh, this is a biography about the guy that, like, I don't really care about that as much as I care about the actual issues that, that were drawn by John Buscema. Like, I get that. I think that's how comic books are, and what we deal with all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's like that's like Robert E. Howard and if you want to use him as sort of the because it is very much a Robert E. Howard, because Robert E. Howard, he wrote all of these Conan and Solomon Kane stories and killed himself when he was 30 years old, and his creations live the actual life. Like, his creations are what people know. I mean, his name is put across it sometimes, but really, like, when you read the Conan books, Stan Lee's friggin' name was on the top of it. Stan Lee presents Conan the Barbarian, and I don't know if anybody would remember those stories if it weren't for, like, there's a movie about him called The Whole Wide World, where Vincent D'Onofrio plays Robert E. Howard. It's a really good movie. But in this, the idea that all of the stories that the father wrote were actually stories that the grandfather actually had, were actual adventures and stuff. I mean, that's an intriguing idea. So if you want to take it from that angle, it's intriguing. But if you want to take it from the angle that it's a means to cover trauma that the girl was making up, that's another, it's another one of Tom's books that really, really,
it works on so many different planes, so many different levels, and you can enjoy it. Enjoying it at one level doesn't ruin the other level, or enjoying it at that other level doesn't ruin that level. That's what I like about it. It's not like, well, you just like it for this surface stuff. You don't get it. There's none of that. There's not that snobbery doesn't seem to apply where somebody can be a snob about, because let's honestly, comic book fans can be snobs about shit.
And there's no room to be snobbish about this at all. It's just so beautiful. You just want to look at the pictures. Like, it's worth it just to show up and look at these pictures, these pages, the beautiful colors and the textures.
Single full page spreads. Jesus.
It's the most beautiful comic I think I've maybe ever read. I'm not kidding. Like, I think it's just that there's a what is it, issue 5? No, 4. Where she goes through her training, and there's that sort of splash page of her in the armor holding an axe and everything. It's just like the details on the armor are beautiful, and she's got, I don't know if you guys are going to get this, but I get this, and I don't mean in a derivative way, but some of her artwork brings Kevin O'Neill and his League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Yeah, like, kind of. You know what I mean? Not as hard edge and stuff, but I can see her drawing a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen book and having it flow. Like, it's just beautiful stuff. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that I see a lot more of P. Craig Russell in all this, whether it's Parsifal or his work on those Grimm's fairy tales. She has such a deft touch. It's such a soft line. It kind of, it's like a symphony. It's like listening to Brahms or something, where it just seems to flow across the page. And again, that's the first person I thought of was P. Craig Russell and some of that fantasy stuff.
There's a hint of Walt Simonson in there too, where it's like it's the perfect melding of all those styles.
Yeah.
So can't argue anything you guys have said.
I don't want to do her a disservice by saying art looks like this because it is utterly unique to me, and she's just and she's out of Brazil. She's Brazilian. I don't know if you've ever seen a photo. She's also stunningly beautiful. I don't know, she's gorgeous.
But no, it's utterly fantastical, the entire package, and there's not one aspect of this that you can sell short, because I think Tom King's characterization, there's just sometimes he's so deft with characters. That's on full display here. Just the perfect melding of color and fantasy elements, and then, family drama and all those other things. My only complaint is the wrong word, but I worry that this being a 6-issue experience and just done is going to be to its detriment. Like, I want so much more of this, and I don't know how you deliver it, because this story seems pretty wrapped up. But I want more.
Well, I don't know. I think they could return to Wyndhorn, or there's definitely. I mean, to me, it's like a limited series, but then look at it like a movie. If it wins the Eisner, which it should, then you can come out with a second book, and you can, there are a lot of questions left unsaid at the end. What happened to Helen? Is it the old lady? There's so many stories left to be told. I would not hesitate to go back into that world, and I think you could do it. And I like that it sets up for another self-contained story that can exist within the bigger created universe. Not unlike what Conan is. And, a lot of those Conan stories are all self-contained stories that exist within the bigger universe.
I'm glad you brought that up, because again, even in the Conan mythology, what happens to Conan in the end. He becomes a king, right? Kind of sort of the end goal, but that doesn't stop you from telling stories on that road. And I feel like with this particular book, you get where this story ends, but there's a lot of middle part that if you just even wanted to come up with one-shots, Helen of Wyndhorn one-shots, and just kind of tell a story similar to what, I don't know, Mike Mignola does with Hellboy sometimes, where it's just, here's a small window into something that happened that fleshed out. Even if, like, Tom King wants to keep some of the mystery under wraps, that's fine. You can still do these one-shots and tease the audience and, make them come out once a year or something. I think those would be really special for those folks that like this. Before we go to commercial breaks, one question I had was, again, this is all about kind of playing off the Conan mythology. I wanted to touch base with J.A. He's our big Conan fan on this show, and I wanted to hear his take on this merging of like a Conan-esque character, Conan-esque world. Again, what would you think of that aspect of it?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I really loved the play between sort of pre-World War II modernism at that time and the fantasy aspects and the other world. If anything, they didn't lean enough into the other world bits. It was a lot of just monsters and stuff. They talked about it, but you didn't see enough of the interplay between like the tribes and mages and things that is so a part of the Conan world, where, there's always the scene of him getting drunk at the bar,
Yeah, it's like a tavern or
the gastro pub,
the grog hall.
Grog, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess there's that one scene when they're in the mead hall, but I guess that's it. But then you don't see. I don't know. I wanted more of that. That's why I always loved like Conan going through the marketplace, or Conan on the trail with the camels, and there's the oasis. A little bit more of the world building. Where I could see like that could be the next series. You have Helen of Wyndhorn. The next could be Barnabas of Wyndhorn.
Yeah. No, you're right. Those were some of my favorite issues. I think it was like the mid-issue where Barnabas first takes her there and they go on a trip to visit her grandmother. And then later on, that last issue where they're on the boat and then they go visit her mother underwater. I thought those were really great issues, to be honest.
Yeah.
Although I really did like the issue where Joseph trained her on the tree. Like, again, to Chad's point, that was like straight up Alfred Batman stuff. That was a lot of fun. All right, we'll be back with more Last Comic Shop right after this. We've got ratings as well as recommendations. So stick around for more of that stuff in just a few seconds.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Palatichuk. I'm an independent film director and screenwriter. I'm also an independent comic book artist and creator. I want to let you know about my podcast, the St. Paul Filmcast. It's a weekly podcast where I interview other independent filmmakers and other artists from the Twin Cities area. You can find the show on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon Radio, as well as distributor Podbean. You can follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So, if you're interested in how independent films get made or the process of filmmaking, also if you're interested in other artists' process and works as well, tune into my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, where it's not over till the guests say it's over.
Dakota Brown here, creator of the CBR Comic Crown Award-winning Death Comes for the Toymaker, here to tell you about my upcoming comic series, Something Beyond the Petrichor. Created alongside artist and horror indie comic star David Lujan, Something Beyond the Petrichor tells the story of a young woman named Jocelyn, her talking stuffed turtle, and a Bible-Belt cryptid who journey through a wasteland devastated by acid rain to search for any remnants of society that might be out there. Be sure to tell your local comic shop that you want a copy.
All right, we're back with more of The Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for ratings. Yes, that time that we like to set aside every single week where we say, hey, Bilquis, your art is tremendous, and I'm going to give it a 4 out of 4 right before we even start because it's gorgeous. Gorgeous stuff. We'll see if the rest of it maybe takes it down a couple notches or keeps it at that 4. But Jay Scott's going to give us what that 1 out of 4 scale is going to be. And what do we got this week?
This is going to be fun. I can't wait for the sound effect. 1 out of 4 flyuns. That is that little creature thing that looked like a little deer, rabbit.
Yeah.
The little Pokemon?
Yes. That is the moment in this book when I said, because before that, it shows up in issue 2. At the end of issue 1, you see this giant monster, but you don't know if it's a creation of her mind or not. But then this is in the daylight, and this is definitely, then you know you're in some sort of fantasy, phantasmographical thing. And it's just wonderful, and it kicks off the whole quest, because he has to take it back. And what is unnoticed, what we didn't mention, is the reason why he gets her to take it is because she's part goddess. She can take him. The Flyune won't go with him.
I did not catch that either. See, layers upon layers.
Yeah.
Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all. And I'm going to start off with that by saying it's still a 4. It's still a 4 in my opinion. Although there were parts of this book that, again, I just felt like I was too dumb. Like I just didn't get. Like that's why I started off the last segment talking about the whole biographer thing. I didn't understand why that was included. I didn't get it. It was kind of like the eye color thing in Mr. Miracle. I was just like, I feel like I should understand this, but I don't. And I'm so glad that you guys helped me fill in the gaps. This is a wonderful series. I really hope that we see a lot more of Helen of Wyndhorn, a lot more of this world. I feel like this has an opportunity not only to make an incredible ongoing comic book series that Tom King and Bilquis Everly can have as an independent creation of theirs, but I hope maybe makes its way eventually into a TV show or a movie. I think this would be gorgeous to watch and kind of exciting, and I think would generate a lot of cross-genre interest for a lot of folks. So yeah, it's a 4. Like this is one of the best comic books that was released last year and maybe the last 10 years. Loved it. J.A.?
Yeah, it's a 4 for me too. I mean, it's the story is great, and the story alone would give it a 3, I think, if it had the worst art ever, but it has the best art ever. So the art elevates it to a 5 or a 6. But I don't want to blow Chad's numbers all out of so I'll just say a 4 and make it easy for him at the end of the year. It's incredible. Those single page spreads. I don't think she has a double page spread throughout the entire book, but the single page spreads are just absolutely jaw-dropping. There are some of them. From the opening sort of initial Frank Frazetta single page splash fantasy to later in each chapter you get some incredible single page panels. They're just beautiful. I could just gush ad nauseum, and I really do hope they come back to this world again. As we said, I would really love to see a Barnabas of Wyndhorn series that tells maybe earlier in his life.
Chad, what do you got?
Obviously, it's a 4. But there's a part of me, I fell so in love with Helen of Wyndhorn in that first book. And there's a part of me that feels bad about myself because all I want to read are the adventures of drunken, disastrous, crazy Helen of Wyndhorn and Lilith trying to chase her down across the globe and her mischievous exploits. Like, I just think it was so much fun. And then I'm like, man, there's character growth. Oh. But no, I really love the story. Like I said, it hooked me instantly. The art is beautiful. The expressiveness of the characters, you get a look in the eyes or the gestures. I hope this gets more attention because I feel like people talked about it initially and then I didn't hear a lot about it after that. Just because it is great comic bookery and does marry the Kevin O'Neill. It does marry the P. Craig Russell. That touch of Simonson in there. I honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I want more because, like, I like what this is. It's very complicated in my brain, but yeah, it's all a 4. It's wonderful. It's worth everyone's time. I want a bigger edition to, give me the treasury size, the artist gallery editions of this artwork.
Have you seen the deluxe edition that's coming out next year?
No, not
Dark
yet.
Horse announced it. Oh my God, it's gorgeous. It's got a slipcase on it and like gold leaf. Oh. So beautiful.
There you go. But yeah, 4 out of 4, all the 4s, all the fly-oons you can muster.
All right, Mikey, finish us off here.
It's a herd of fly-oons. I think it's actually called a murder of fly-oons. Yeah, man, the book is just gorgeous, and it's like 6 issues, but it's a good, dense 6 issues. Like an issue takes you a while to read. There are a lot of words in them, so they are good. They are dense. They are deep, beautifully done. This is a book of substance, and it's substantial. That's kind of the best thing that I could say about it is that it is a substantial, wonderful experience that more people should have.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some other substantial experiences that we hope that you all enjoy here is our recommendations. Yes, this is the time of our show where we talk about other books in addition to Helen of Wyndhorn, which we hope that you pick up if you are so inclined. But we're going to go ahead and start off with Chad Smith. Chad, what do you got for us this week in terms of your recommendation?
All right, so Helen of Wyndhorn is a singular effort between a writer and an artist. I think it's wonderful. It's a creator-owned property. Even though there are homages there, like it's its own thing. I'm going to go the opposite route with my recommendation. I'm going to go with Jason Aaron's new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles run, which I picked up the first issue on one of those Whatnot streams. For long story short, I'd won something from a giveaway. People were like, I better buy something. So they had Kevin Eastman autographed issues. I'm like, all right. So shout out to SMC Comics. I picked up issue number 1. And then I was like, well, I better get the rest. And so the first issue had art from Joel Jones teaming up with Jason Aaron, which the first issue, by the way, is a Raphael issue where he is in prison. And, it's one of those Rorschach, I'm not in here with you, you're in here with me sort of things. The second issue is illustrated by Raphael Albuquerque, and it's Michelangelo, and he is Tokyo star, like a television star, movie star. The third issue, you bring in Cliff Chang, and it tells a story about Leonardo, and he is meditating amongst the turtles on the sandy beaches. And then you get to the fourth issue, and the fourth issue is where you see how messed up Donatello is now. Where Donatello's gone kind of crazy, and he has a little rat on his shoulder that he thinks is Splinter that's talking to him, but it's not Splinter. And I'm gonna spoil a little bit of it. That rat doesn't make it very far. But so that's where the Ninja Turtles are at the beginning of this epic, and it's a different artist every issue. That Chris Burnham does the Donatello issue. It's super disturbing. But then they come together in issue 5 with art by Derek Robertson. Juan Ferreira does issue 6. These are all collected in the first trade of this series, but each issue brings something else to the table. And it is fun, it is disturbing, it is different every time. It is worth checking out, even though you might be thinking, oh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, it's a licensed property. This isn't something to scoff at. It's definitely fun. They bring in Casey Jones. He gets an issue spotlight. I don't know. It's just fun watching these turtles come together. And so I picked up enough for the first arc, and now I've got to go to the comic shop and see if they have the more recent issues as well, because, damn it, it's good.
That's awesome. It's always good to have a good Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series out on the stands, or maybe even 6. Mikey, what do you got for us this week?
This week I am going with 2018's The Dreaming by DC Vertigo, which was still around at the time. The run, it was 20 issues. It was written by Simon Spurrier, and it had art by Bilquis Evely for the majority of the 20 issues that it ran. There were a couple of issues here and there with art by other folks like Abigail Larson and Danny and things like that. But for the most part, Bilquis did the majority of the work. It's the book where I actually kind of discovered her I'd seen it before, but I didn't really recognize the name until I started reading this. And it's gorgeous work. Cy Spurrier writes the hell out of those Vertigo characters. He's phenomenal writing those characters. His Hellblazer runs are great and everything. So I highly recommend all 20 issues. It's collected in trades. But the single issues have covers by Jay Lee, a lot of them beautiful, beautiful Jay Lee covers. So, yeah, check it out.
Well, my recommendation this week is an awesome book that I picked up at my local comic book shop on Free Comic Book Day in order to show my support to Phantom of the Attic there in Monroeville. It is put out by Fantagraphics, but it includes a lot of Marvel issues. It's called Tower of Shadows. It's part of their Lost Marvel series, in which they're putting out a bunch of lesser-known Marvel titles that had limited runs back in the day. And Tower of Shadows was kind of Marvel's attempt to try to compete with DC's House of Secrets at the same time in the late 60s, early 70s. More adult title, kind of horror-oriented, skating the comics code to a certain extent. And the amazing thing about this particular book is it's great for reading right before bed. Not because, horror is great right before bed, but just simply because the stories are short. A lot of these were anthologies, so there's just 8 to 10 pages. And as a result of that, you can kind of get a really good sampling of some of Marvel's bullpen of artists that they had back in the late 60s, early 70s, which was absolutely stacked. You had Neil Adams, you had Jim Steranko, you had Barry Windsor Smith, you had John Buscema, you had Wally Wood, you had Gene Colan, Marie Severin, Bernie Wrightson working on some of these issues, as well as writers like, again, Stan Lee and Roy Thomas. Jerry Conway worked on some of these issues. But again, 8 to 10 pages. You don't have to read them all at once. I think the series only ran for 8 issues, so maybe 25 stories in total. But again, the art is tremendous. There's one story in here that was done by Neil Adams, and it's at peak Neil Adams. You're talking Neil Adams right after he got off his run on X-Men with Roy Thomas, that awesome Havoc cover, some of my favorite artwork that Neil Adams has ever done in his illustrious career. So you get that, as well as Barry Windsor Smith is knocking it out of the park, and Jim Steranko when he was really, really good. Man, you got to check it out. And it's in a beautiful hardcover. So Tower of Shadows, Can't recommend it enough. Pick it up today. J.A., finish us off.
Yeah, so I'm going to recommend some Conan, of course. Savage Sword of Conan Omnibus Volume 4. This is the last one that's primarily just Roy Thomas and John Buscema, which is the reason why I'm recommending it. It was also just re-released this year by Titan Comics, who now owns the rights to the Conan brand. So you can find the Marvel one, get that one if you can find it for cheap, because you get then the letter pages and all the Marvel-owned content. If you can't find that one, get the Titans version one, which is cheaper on the secondary market probably, but know that you're going to lose some of the Marvel copyrighted material, so the letters pages and some of the other stuff they put back into the comic. But this one has some great stories. The Gem of the Tower, Moon of Blood, The Treasure of Tranicos, and the classic Conan the Liberator. Some really great stories. It collects Savage Sword of Conan 45 through 60 from the original Marvel years back in the late 70s, early 80s. Re-released this year by Titan Comics, so if all you're seeing is the old Marvel omnibus going for heap loads of money, just get the Titan one, and you get all the same stories, minus, granted, the letters pages.
But the letters pages are great. They are.
Yes.
They are.
You do
great.
get to see some classic images of Roy Thomas dressed up as Conan.
And if you want to listen to an interview with Roy Thomas, make sure that you're checking out our back archives of episodes over at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com. We do have an awesome interview with Roy Thomas that we did at Hershey Comic Con a couple of years back. So make sure that you're checking out that episode, as well as interviews with folks like Kelly Thompson, as Mikey Wood mentioned, P. Craig Russell, which I talked about, in terms of Bilquis Everly's art. We have an interview with him in our back archives, as well as the fact that by rate, reviewing, and subscribing, you get all of the rest of the episodes of The Last Comic Shop coming up, including next week's review of the Fantastic Four movie, as well as The Coming of Galactus, the 3-issue arc that kicked everything off in Fantastic Four 48 through 50. We've also got Meatball Batman coming up in the next couple of weeks. But all that available by just rate, reviewing, and subscribing for free over at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com.
We might be the Last Comic Shop podcast, but we don't want to be the Last Comic Shop. So we encourage everybody to get out there. Honestly, if we've not gushed enough about Helen of Wyndhorn, you're not listening. So go out there, pick up Helen of Wyndhorn, whatever collection you can get. Also consider checking out things like The Dreaming with more Bilquis Everly art, or the latest run of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles written by Jason Aaron and company. The Tower of Shadows. Get yourself a retro horror fix out of Marvel, or you want to go retro, you want to keep things connected, get that Savage Sword of Conan with the Roy Thomas and the John Buscema art. Volume 4 is the one Jay is recommending today. All that and more is potentially waiting for you at your local comic shop, so make sure you check those folks out today. And then circle back to www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, where you can find links to our social media. You can find those Golden Age covers to push you to bed at night. You can find all the fun comic conversation and links to all sorts of other things, including our YouTube account, including other social things, and including our merch store. So, Jay, what fabulous merch waits for people this week?
T-shirts, tote bags, hats, sweatshirts, hoodies, all the stuff you need to kit out your entire family and distant relatives with Last Comic Shop gear. And this week, a special on battle axes. Because if you're going to see your extended family, you might need a battle axe. I don't know. Yes, perfect for family reunions.
Hey, isn't that the name for your mother-in-law? That's the old battle axe.
The old battle axe.
Hey, at least you didn't go loincloth this time. Most of the time when we talk about Conan, it's all about the loincloth. Although you have the T-shirt, so that's easily done if you really wanted to.
Just get an extra large one. Cut it down.
Wear it like a diaper.
That's right.
In any case, one thing that we're hoping people don't wear as diapers are the things they get from BCW supplies, because that would be really weird. But you get awesome stuff from your comic book collection. And Mikey, how can people save some tremendous money on some of that stuff?
Kids, sometimes you have comics and you need to put them in boxes to take care of them so that you could talk about them 50 years from now on your deathbed, when you could say, the only one worth money is in box number. Anyway, get those boxes from BCW Supplies, and you can use a special little code word that we have that is LCSPOD, which is LCSPOD, and they'll give you a nice little discount on that. I actually just used it last week to buy 10 short boxes because I'm switching out my long boxes. So
good move.
Yes, they're wonderful. But thank you for BCW Supplies for selling and it's good quality stuff too.
Oh yes, absolutely. Self-adhesive bags. I mean, they have comic book binders that you can bind your own comics books with.
They even sell, for the one who wants it almost done for him, you can get the bag with the board already inside of it.
That's right.
So all you got to do is put the comic in, pull that strip, and close.
Just got to shove it in there.
Yeah, just shove it in there. All you have to do is shove in that code, LCSPOD, get yourself 10% off that stuff you're going to be buying anyways. And we hope that you come back to the Last Comic Shop next week for all that Fantastic Four nonsense. I'm very excited about this movie. But we'll have that as well as a comic book to pair with it. Until then, I'm the host of the Most, Andy Larson. I'm joined by Chad Smith and Jay Scott, as well as the wonderful Mikey Wood, and we hope that you stay safe. Stay Eisnerific. That's a word, right? Yeah. It's the Eisners. Make sure that you check them out this week. Sometimes they have live streams of the event or whatever, but you can find out who won. And always remember that the difference between a hormone and a vitamin is you can't make a vitamin.
You okay, Mikey?
Did you just have a stroke?
He laughed so hard his chair broke.
Was a 2025 Black Angus production.